Bloating from drinking water. The ultimate WTF is wrong with my body conundrum. How could it be that something so clean and pure and hypoallergenic and FODMAP-free, histamine-free, salicylate-free, how could it be that water is causing bloating for some of you? I actually know because I struggled with this for a while myself when I had IBS, which in retrospect I think was SIBO. If you want to hear more about my story and what I think is going on if water's causing bloating, stay tuned to find out more. As I mentioned in the intro of this video, I actually struggled with the symptom myself. So for those of you guys who don't know, if you haven't heard my story, either on the IBS Freedom podcast or here on this channel, I had IBS about 10 or so years ago. That was one of the things that really drew me into the field of functional medicine, that and my mom's hypothyroidism. So as I was going through a lot of these seminars and courses, and I was doing detoxes and cleanses and trying out new supplements and new diets, I was progressively getting more and more bloated and struggling with chronic diarrhea, and it made no sense. Like, I was cleaning up my diet, in my mind at least, and I was starting to correct a lot of underlying issues that I had struggled with for a while, and it didn't really make sense at the time why my gut seemed like it was getting worse and worse. Now, to kind of jump forward a little bit in time, what ended up being the thing for me was that I had pretty severe dysbiosis, including yeast overgrowth and a couple of parasites. Looking back, I had all of the symptoms of SIBO, so I very much think that SIBO was at play for me as well. And the whole time I was stuck because I was convinced I had leaky gut, and I just kept taking mountains of L-glutamine and Repairvite and restricting my diet and doing the things that I was being taught were good for leaky gut syndrome, when in actuality that was the least of my concerns. Maybe I had a little bit of leaky gut, but it wasn't as big of a thing on my journey as I thought it would have been. So anyway, in this journey, there was a lot of stress, as you might imagine, because I felt like my body was failing me somehow. I felt like my stomach was out to get me, or it was being naughty. And there was a lot of like internal dialogue that was not very good in my head about like what my body was doing and what this all meant. And I remember very distinctly toward like the middle of my 2 or 3 year journey with IBS, I remember one day in particular, I had rice and nothing else. Like, I had restricted my diet so much. I had just eaten white rice, nothing else, and I got severely bloated. And I was on my bed, like in the fetal position with cramps and bloating and pain. And I was like, this makes no sense. Half of the world's population sustains themselves on white rice. This is one of the most hypoallergenic foods. It's on, it's like if you need something to settle your stomach again, the most bland thing you can eat is white rice. What the heck is going on? And then I think it was either the same day or it was a day or two later, I remember having the same thing happen with water for the first time. And it was a major, pardon my French, but what the fuck moment. It was this moment of like, what is my body doing? I thought the rice was hypoallergenic, and it didn't make sense that that was causing bloating. This sure the heck does not make any sense. Water has nothing in it. Our bodies are like 70 or 80% water. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. What the heck is happening? And similarly, I remember drinking some water and being on my bed in misery, wondering what the devil was wrong with my body and wondering if I was ever going to overcome my IBS and live a normal life and like go out to a restaurant again. Jump forward a little bit. This continued to happen on and off. I was basically always bloated. I actually lived every woman's nightmare. I was asked if I was pregnant when I was in fact not pregnant. I was so bloated one time. And again, I was restricting my diet. I joke, I did AIP before it was AIP. I did AIP before it was cool. So I cut out all the grains eventually. I cut out nightshades and eggs and dairy and soy and you name it, I cut it out. And the symptoms continued to get worse. And I was looking for like that one food or that one supplement that would be the holy grail for me. But I remember there was a point where we had some roommate stress. So I had 2 roommates for the bulk of my time in grad school, which is when this was all happening in grad school for me. And one roommate I was very close with. She's still my best friend to this day. We're very, very close. And we were 2 peas in a pod. The other roommate was very hot and cold. She was either a super fun roommate and we would go on adventures and we would go to the beach and we would go to, to do things together and we would be good study buddies, or she was really crazy. In retrospect now, I think that she probably is bipolar and we just never knew. Like, we didn't put two and two together. We didn't know about that diagnosis very much. But in retrospect, the way that she was either super fun or super not fun, I think she's probably bipolar. And that was really hard to deal with. Like, the other roommate and I would literally like come out of our rooms and not know which version of her we were going to get. We'd be like, oh, well, let's just call her Carol. Like, oh, are we going to get cool Carol or crazy Carol today? Like, which one is it going to be? And we never really knew. And then we were in the same class in school. We had all the same classes together. We were together all day, every day. So we had to kind of deal with her either being like really cool or really not cool. And it was this whiplash, this roller coaster. There was a point, however, where Carol was exceptionally cray and didn't talk to me for a month. Was slamming the doors, slamming the cupboards, stomping her tiny feet all over the place, and being really passive aggressive and really just quite vile to be around. And that's right around the time when the weird water bloating thing got way worse. Like, I think it might have happened a time or two prior to that, but in that month or so that crazy Carol was not speaking to me and she was being really passive aggressive, I remember distinctly every day I would get so bloated and I was in so much pain and I felt like, what do I do now? I had gone gluten-free at the time and Carol was outwardly against that diet for some reason, even though it didn't affect her life at all. And she kind of debated me on it and thought that it was stupid, and she thought that I was like scaring all of our classmates into going gluten-free. So I remember at one point wondering, is she sneaking like flour into my food, right? Like, I would start a pot of soup or something and then I would walk away and come back. And I was actually debating, like, do I go to one of those like spy shops and I put cameras in the kitchen just so I could see, like, is she sneaking stuff into my food when I'm not looking? I was that uncomfortable that I was convinced I was getting glutenated and I did not know. And so this went on for about a month. And then finally, the other roommate and I decided enough's enough. Like, we can't live with this person. This is way too stressful. Why don't we move out? And I tell you what, guys, and it's still mind-boggling to this day, the week we moved out, that problem went away from me. Like, it was that distinct. It was like, we packed up our stuff. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. We had to find a place to live. But we packed up our stuff. We moved all our stuff in. And like the first week in the new place, we weren't even unpacked yet. And I remember, oh, I could eat things that I wasn't previously able to eat. And now I can drink a lot of water or a little bit of water, and it does not cause that same problem. Versus previously, especially in that 1 month period of time, anything I put into my body, including water, would cause severe pain and severe cramping and bloating. And looking back, it makes perfect sense. Because, like, chemically speaking, there's no reason for your body to react to water. You are water. Like, for all intents and purposes, you are water. So why would your body be reactive to water? Like, that doesn't make any sense from like a chemical level. There's nothing allergenic, there's nothing toxic, there's nothing inflammatory, assuming you have decent water quality and you filter your water. Like, there's nothing potentially inflammatory or immune aggravating or immune activating in that water. So why would your body react to that? But I think for me, it was a symptom of really profound gut-brain axis disruption. It was a symptom of really profound stress. And I think it was a symptom that my nervous system did not feel safe. And if you watch some of my videos or podcast episodes about the vagus nerve and the gut-brain connection, you will be familiar with this concept. The vagus nerve, the way to activate it is not gargling. The way to activate your vagus nerve is not necessarily singing and humming and chanting, although those things are wonderful if you enjoy doing those. The way to activate your vagus nerve is to take your foot off the brake pedal. And really, to do that, you need your vagus nerve to know that you are safe and connected and comfortable on some level. And the reality was, at that time, when my roommate was very volatile and passive aggressive, and I thought that she might be like sneaking stuff into my food behind my back, I did not feel safe even in my own home. And that was signaling to my vagus nerve, and that was signaling to my nervous system, you're not safe. You cannot rest and digest right now. This is like, I mean, exaggerated by the nervous system, I'm sure, but like, this is life and death. We need to get you out of here. We need to run from the tiger and keep you safe. When you're safe, then we'll think about digesting stuff. And, you know, again, it's still mind-boggling. This was 10 years ago or more. But again, the week we moved out, my IBS symptoms at large decreased by about 50% in the span of 1 week. Now, I still had stuff to do. Like, I was still cutting out a lot of foods, and I still was losing tolerance to foods. I was still dealing with some degree of bloating and diarrhea. I remember in that new apartment with the one roommate, like, I remember giving her food because I was like, nope, gave me diarrhea. It's yours now. So I remember that the problem wasn't gone when we moved into that new apartment, but it was a lot better. I wasn't perpetually freaking out wondering, is this going to be the rest of my life? I'm so severely sick. It wasn't the same degree of severity, and that allowed me to start making some headway and start incorporating things that actually ultimately helped me and get to where I am now. And now I haven't had IBS symptoms in any way, shape, or form in 10 years, I would say. Now, I should say, like, I'm still human, so every now and then things happen. And I'm a celiac, so like, if I get exposed to gluten, I will have acute symptoms. And for me personally, if I'm traveling or if I'm acutely stressed, I tend to get constipated still. But it's not nearly to the degree, and it's not nearly similar to what I had back in the day when I had IBS. And again, in retrospect, I think it was SIBO, and I just didn't know. So if you are watching this video and you're thinking, God, I'm bloating when I eat anything, including water, what the heck is happening to my body? There's no logical explanation. There's no chemical reason why this should be happening. I just want to say I see you and I acknowledge you, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're probably thinking, that this makes no sense whatsoever. I don't think it's about the water. I think it's about you and your nervous system perceiving that you are unsafe and that you cannot get into rest and digest mode. So again, if you haven't watched these already, I've got a lot of resources on the vagus nerve and the gut-brain axis. Go check those videos out. You can search this channel for vagus nerve videos and gut-brain axis videos. You could also search the IBS Freedom podcast channel. We have that podcast on YouTube as well as podcasting apps. So if you want to do audio only, you can. If you want to watch us on video, you can. There's a separate YouTube channel for that. Go check out those videos. We have a whole episode on the gut-brain axis. We have a whole episode on the vagus nerve. And then we have several episodes talking to psychologists about things like polyvagal theory and the gut-brain axis and the role of mental health and like tools that you can use to improve your mental health. But I will say, that being said, even if you incorporate tools like hypnosis and EMDR and therapy and essential oils, those are all great, but don't try to band-aid something that is as severe as what I described. Now, again, like, I was lucky. I wasn't in an abusive relationship. I wasn't being physically threatened. It wasn't as bad as some people probably have it. But the fact of the matter is my nervous system didn't feel safe. And I don't think that any amount of ashwagandha would have changed that. So by all means, use these tools, the nervine herbs, the adaptogen herbs, therapy, EMDR, hypnosis, all of those things are great. But also, if you are in a living situation or a job or a relationship or a situation in your life where you feel perpetually unsafe and unconnected and your vagus nerve is frying as a result, please try to find a way to get out of that situation. I know it's easier said than done. For me, it was easy. We just cut ties with that roommate and moved out. It's much harder if it's your spouse or a loved one that you lived with that is keeping you burned out and frying your vagus nerve. But please try to find a way out of that situation or deal with that situation in whatever way you can, because I really think that your vagus nerve is just yelling at you and saying, please help me. I cannot function in this environment. Okay, now that I might have bummed you out slightly, I just want to wrap up and say, did you notice the background change? I'm sure you did, but I felt like this was just a talking video. I didn't need to write anything on the whiteboard for you, so I figured we would have a pretty backdrop. This, A, I painted all of these, so that's just like my little brag moment. I love them so much. But B, for those of you who don't know, I am on the Instagram. I joke I'm the old lady of Instagram. I've only been on Instagram for like a year or two at most, but this is the backdrop where I do a lot of my reels and a lot of my posts on Instagram. So if you haven't seen this before, that means you probably have not followed me on the gram yet. Check it out. Right now, my screen name is @TriangleGuts. However, I'm strongly thinking of changing my screen name in the next week or two. I have a couple of ideas. It's occurred to me that none of you know why I named this channel Triangle Guts, and probably none of you care. For the record, I live in the triangle of North Carolina. It's the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill triangle. That's why everything is triangle right now for me. But if you don't live in North Carolina, you don't know what that means, and you kind of don't care what that means more than likely. So anyway, right now my screen name is Triangle Guts. I am probably going to be changing it to something a little bit more universally not recognizable, something like not as area specific, because people think that it's a weird screen name and it's probably not serving me really well. But for right now, you can find me at Triangle Guts. And again, I do funny and hopefully educational reels and videos with this beautiful backdrop. And I will see you back at the whiteboard for the next video on this YouTube channel. And I will see you on hopefully the IBS Freedom podcast and Instagram really soon. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.